Imagine being good enough for Manchester United, good enough for Liverpool, good enough for Arsenal, good enough for almost any club in England, and saying no, again, and again, and again. Most footballers spend their careers trying to escape clubs like Southampton. Matt Le Tissier spent his trying to stay. And that is why, decades later, football still talks about him. Because Matt Le Tissier wasn't just a footballer. He was a mystery. A player blessed with the talent of a superstar, yet completely uninterested in living like one. Born on the island of Guernsey in 1968, Le Tissier's journey into professional football looked unlikely from the beginning. He wasn't the quickest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fittest. But he possessed something far rarer. Imagination. The kind of imagination that cannot be coached. The kind that turns football into art. When Southampton gave him his chance, supporters quickly realized they were watching someone different. Not because he scored goals. Lots of players score goals. Matt Le Tissier scored goals that people still talk about 30 years later. Goals that made crowds gasp. Goals that made commentators laugh in disbelief. Goals that looked impossible until he made them look easy. Watch his highlights today and they still feel ridiculous. The volley against Newcastle. The chip against Wimbledon. The thunderbolts from 30 yards. The half volleys that seem to defy physics. Some players score goals. Le Tissier created memories. And that is why supporters loved him. Every time he received the ball, something extraordinary felt possible. Football became theatre. Football became entertainment. Football became fun. Former teammate Alan Shearer once described Le Tissier as one of the most naturally gifted players he had ever seen. Many felt exactly the same. Yet as his reputation grew, so did the questions. Why was he still at Southampton? Why wasn't he playing for Manchester United? Why wasn't he winning league titles? Why wasn't he starring in the Champions League? The offers came. The opportunities came. The chance to join football's elite came. But Le Tissier stayed. Again. And again. And again. To some people, that was madness. To Southampton supporters, it was loyalty. Because while football was becoming increasingly obsessed with money, transfers, and trophies, Matt Le Tissier remained different. He valued happiness. He valued home. And he valued playing football his way. At the Dell, Southampton's famous old stadium, he became more than a player. He became a symbol. The King of the Dell. The player who chose them when he could have chosen anyone. And perhaps that connection made the magic even stronger. Because every goal felt personal. Every moment belonged to Southampton. Then there were the penalties. One of football's most astonishing records. Le Tissier scored 47 of his first 48 professional penalties. 47. Out of 48. Goalkeepers knew his reputation. They studied him. Prepared for him. And still couldn't stop him. It remains one of the greatest penalty records the game has ever seen. Yet even now, statistics struggle to explain Matt Le Tissier. Because numbers cannot measure imagination. They cannot measure anticipation. They cannot measure the excitement supporters felt whenever he touched the ball. And then there is England. Perhaps the greatest what-if of all. England possessed one of the most gifted footballers in the country. And somehow selected him only 8 times. 8. To this day, many supporters believe England never truly understood what they had. Perhaps he didn't fit the system. Perhaps managers wanted something different. Perhaps football sometimes gets things wrong. Whatever the reason, The debate has never disappeared. What if England had trusted Matt Le Tissier? What if Manchester United had convinced him to leave? What if football's greatest entertainer had spent his career surrounded by world-class players? We'll never know. And perhaps that mystery is part of what makes his story so compelling. Because unlike most football legends, Le Tissier's career isn't remembered for what happened. It's remembered for what might have happened. Yet despite all the questions, all the debates and all the what-ifs, one thing remains certain. Every football fan remembers Matt Le Tissier. Not because he won the most trophies. Not because he played for the biggest clubs. Not because he became the most famous. But because every time he stepped onto a football pitch, something magical felt possible. Football remembers winners. Football remembers champions. Football remembers trophy collections. Yet decades later, supporters still talk about Matt Le Tissier. Not because he won everything, but because he reminded us why we fell in love with football in the first place. The genius who refused to leave. The King of the Dell. And one of the most naturally gifted footballers England has ever produced. That is why Matt Le Tissier will always remain a true footballing icon. What is your favorite Matt Le Tissier goal?